Ethan had once believed that love could conquer all. He was a man of simple means, yet rich in spirit. His world had revolved around his wife, Clara, and their son, Samuel. He loved her deeply, perhaps too deeply. Clara, on the other hand, was driven by ambition, something Ethan never quite understood. To him, a stable life, a happy family, and a modest home were more than enough. But Clara wanted more. She wanted excitement, luxury, and status. She had always been beautiful, charismatic, and used her charm to climb the social ladder. Ethan worked tirelessly to provide for them, unaware that his wife was slowly slipping away from him. Clara had begun spending more time with Mark, a man Ethan had always trusted. Mark was Ethan's best friend, a business partner who had always been there, supporting him through thick and thin, or so it seemed. But the truth was, Mark had his eyes on Clara for years. And Clara, ever the opportunist, had grown tired of Ethan's stability, finding solace in Mark's promise of a lavish lifestyle. One evening, Ethan returned early from a business trip, hoping to surprise Clara. What he found shocked him to his core. Clara and Mark were in the living room, their lips locked in a passionate embrace. The room seemed to spin, and Ethan's heart sank as the reality of the betrayal washed over him. He stood frozen in the doorway, not believing what his eyes were seeing. "Ethan," Clara said, pulling away from Mark, her voice cold, almost indifferent. "It's over. I never loved you. I was using you." Mark, standing beside her, sneered. "You were always too naive, Ethan. You were never enough for her. She deserves more, and so do I." The words hit Ethan like a physical blow, but what came next was far worse. Clara's face hardened as she continued. "I had to do it. You were standing in the way of everything I wanted, the life I deserve." Tears welled up in Ethan's eyes, but they were quickly replaced by anger. "How long?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "How long have you been planning this?" Clara didn't flinch. "Long enough. You were never meant to be in my way. You were a stepping stone, a means to an end." Ethan's mind raced, unable to process the weight of her words. But before he could say anything more, Clara's cold gaze locked onto him. "It's too late for you, Ethan. You'll never be a part of our future." In that moment, Ethan realized something far darker, something far more horrifying. Clara, with Mark's help, had plotted his death. She had poisoned him, ensuring that he would never wake again. As the poison took hold, he felt his body grow weak, his limbs heavy. In his final moments, he reached out for his son Samuel, but the world went dark. When Ethan died, he felt an eerie silence. It was a vast void, a nothingness where time didn't seem to exist. His body felt cold, detached, and lifeless, but his mind was still sharp, still full of rage, grief, and disbelief. He didn't understand what was happening, nor did he know how long he floated in this endless abyss. But he knew one thing: he was not ready to die. He couldn't let it end like this, not with the taste of betrayal lingering on his soul, and not with Samuel left alone in this cruel world. When he finally opened his eyes, he was not where he had been before. Instead of lying lifeless on the floor of his home, he was in a crib, his small hands clutching the bars, his tiny body squirming in the confines of a newborn's body. Confused and disoriented, Ethan slowly realized the truth. He had been reborn. At first, everything seemed like a dream, a strange, surreal twist of fate. His memories, though vivid and unyielding, felt like they belonged to someone else. He was a child again, but his mind was that of the man he had once been. Ethan, now trapped in the body of a 5-year-old, was determined to make things right. Ethan's rebirth was not without its struggles. He was still young, unable to communicate clearly, but his mind was fully intact. Every day he watched as Clara, now living with Mark, continued to live a life of luxury, pretending as if nothing had ever happened. They never spoke of Ethan again. Samuel was growing, but he had no memory of his father. Clara had erased every trace of Ethan from his life, filling the boy's mind with lies. But Ethan was patient. As days passed, his body grew, and with it, his understanding of the situation. He was back in the world, but this time, things would be different. He would make sure that Samuel grew up knowing the truth. He would protect him from Clara's poison and the manipulation she had carefully woven around the boy. Ethan's first goal was simple: find Samuel. His son was now 10, and although Clara tried to keep him isolated, Samuel still visited the park where Ethan had once played with him as a boy. There, Ethan began to subtly reach out to his son, rekindling their bond in small, tender moments. It was not easy. Clara had already begun to turn Samuel against him, planting seeds of doubt and confusion in the boy's mind. But Ethan's resolve was unwavering. Every time Samuel smiled at him, called him Dad, It reminded him of the precious time he had lost. Slowly but surely, Samuel began to open up to Ethan. They would play games, talk about life, and share quiet moments that felt more like they were healing together. Clara, however, was not ignorant of Ethan's return. She had begun to notice small, strange things happening. Samuel's mood had changed, and he was asking more questions about his father. She knew that Ethan was still alive in some form, but she didn't know how or why. What she did know was that she couldn't let him back into Samuel's life. In a desperate attempt to reclaim control, Clara began manipulating Samuel even more, feeding him lies, telling him that Ethan was a shadow, a ghost from the past who was trying to confuse him. "Your father was weak," she would say. "He didn't love you like I do. You don't need him." But Samuel, now more open to the idea of the father he never truly knew, began to see through Clara's lies. He started to question her motives, to wonder why she had hidden the truth from him for so long. Day of reckoning came sooner than expected. Ethan, now fully grown and prepared for the final confrontation, faced Clara and Mark once again. But this time, things were different. Ethan was no longer the broken man he once was. He had a purpose, a mission, and the love for his son that fueled him. Clara and Mark, realizing that Ethan had returned to claim his rightful place in Samuel's life, made one last desperate move. They tried to turn the boy against him, but it was too late. Samuel, now understanding the full truth, stood by his father, ready to confront the people who had stolen so much from them. Confrontation between Ethan and Clara was not one of physical violence, but a battle of will, a fight for the truth. Ethan exposed every lie Clara had told, every betrayal she had committed. And in the end, Clara's world came crashing down. The police were called, the evidence of her crimes too overwhelming to deny. As Clara was taken away in handcuffs, Ethan held Samuel close, knowing that their bond was now unbreakable. He had avenged his own death, but more importantly, he had saved his son from the darkness that had once consumed him. With Clara and Mark out of the picture, Ethan and Samuel were free. They began a new life, one where love and trust could flourish again. Though the past would always haunt them, they had each other, and in that they found peace. Ethan's rebirth had not just been a chance for revenge, it had been an opportunity to heal, to protect, and to restore the love he had lost. As he looked at his son, now safe and happy, Ethan knew that his journey had come full circle. His vengeance had been fulfilled, but the true victory lay in the bond they now shared.